after that.
A busy day for us. Following this 30-minute warm-up session at 10 o'clock Eastern, we will have Indy Next race number 1, and then 11:30 you can join us for pre-race festivities. Green flag scheduled for 12:29 as we present the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. It is a picture-perfect day in the great state of Florida, the beautiful Tampa-St. Pete area. Let's get the affirmation on that by welcoming in Michael Young.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Mark Janes, and it is somewhat electric already this morning as we have begun this morning warm-up session. 68 degrees, the ambient temperature, track temperature 82 right now, so about what we had yesterday morning as we started the day, but as you said, it is picture perfect, and already activity on pit lane. Several of the drivers went out on those alternate tires, those green tires, the softer tires. They've already come back in, maybe strapped on the ones that they had from Friday. They had to turn those in. They had the option to turn those in and use them this morning in the morning warm-ups, and I've seen several guys go out on the primaries, so some working on the alternates, some working on the primaries. Lots of questions that have to be answered before we finish up today as we head further down pit lane to Alex Wolf.
Yeah, Michael, one of the interesting things for me yesterday is with all these unknowns mixed with it being the season opener, I felt like after qualifying, some of the longest debriefs I've ever seen on pit lane. As soon as drivers got out of the car, they huddled up with their team, their strategist, the engineer, going over the data, just trying to figure out what to do, and especially with that big topic, the tires, the degradation. We're seeing more pit stop practice in front of me with Felix Rosenquist, who will line up on the inside of the second row. He'll be putting on those alternate green sidewall tires. They just got done doing some warm-ups. The resistance bands were out for some of the tire changers. As the 60 car gets ready to come in, they wave them in, and they'll get their first reps as far as pit stop practice goes in this warm-up in the 60 car, which hopes to go to victory lane with Myra Shank Racing, already paying off the dividends of the new technical alliance they have with Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, and to that note, Davey Hamilton, how about the folks at Myers Shank? They locked down row number 2 with Felix Rosenquist and Marcus Armstrong.
Yeah, how about that? Really impressive out of that team right out of the box. I mean, obviously, we know both those drivers have a lot of talent, but anytime that you're affiliated with another team, like we just talked about, Chip Ganassi Racing, and you have a technical alliance, that's always good, but you know, you don't know if you're going to beat them. But I'll tell you what, that tells you that Chip is giving them everything that they have on their own cars. The drivers stepped up. Obviously, Rosenquist, we know how good he is, especially when it comes to qualifying. And one thing that he mentioned that I'm anxious to see today is, we remember last year, a lot of poles with him, runs up front, leads races, but the car just seemed to fall off and didn't really have the speed at the end of the race when they needed to win. So Chip has that. Those cars seem to be better as they go, so it'll be interesting to see how those two drivers can handle that new setup.
Some struggles yesterday for a couple of race teams, most notably Ed Carpenter Racing. Their drivers struggle to find speed. Christian Rasmussen will roll off in the 24th starting position and a 20th starting position for Alexander Rossi. Same for A.J. Foyt with Santino Ferrucci rolling off 19th.
Yeah, you know, so you look at the times of that team, the drivers, and you see that Rossi and Rasmussen almost the exact same time. So that tells you that there's something missing now. A little surprised because in the final warm-up session, they were towards the top of the charts. Thought, man, Ed looks good this weekend. Everything was fine. But when it came time to really get the most out of the car and qualifying, it just wasn't there. And I seen a little bit of that. And I think it was with the green tires. They were having issues with the back of the car locking up under heavy braking. And we've seen Alex go down to turn 1. Obviously, Christian was the same. They didn't have the balance for these softer compound tires.
The speed of the pit lane is enforced in practice, qualifying, and during the race, and some drivers learning that the hard way. One of those is Kyle Kirkwood, who was told to report to the pit lane for a drive-through because he came through that pit lane a little bit too hot. Condition-wise, Dave, you talked to the drivers much about the level of grip. You know, as we've said, this course has been in existence for 20-plus years now, and you can go here pretty much any time during the year, and you can see exactly where these cars are running, except for the airport runway portion of it. And so, you know, the fact that, you know, Old Man Winter doesn't visit Florida, and I will say the heat probably has a factor, and you see a few bumps pop up here and there. I would imagine, though, by the time you get to race day at St. Petersburg, grip is at an all-time high.
Yeah, it's really good. Actually, last night running the two-seater here last night, and we are on the green, softer compound tires, and I can tell you they do drop off, which we usually don't feel that the two-seaters just giving rides, but they definitely fall off. But the grip level was higher than I've ever seen it here. I think that we were going around there faster than we normally go as well, so I think the track conditions are really good. It's not going to be too hot today. Engines are going to run great. I think it's just absolutely perfect conditions in this track. It has as much grip right now, Mark, as I've ever seen it have, number one, and I think that is because we continue to talk about that soft tire. It really lays a lot of rubber down, and downside with it is when you leave rubber on the groove and it grinds into that groove, that leaves marble. So the outside of the line could be treacherous today, and anytime a yellow comes out, don't be surprised if you don't see a sweeper truck somewhat cleaning that outside lanes.
Some good stories among the top 15 in the race later today in terms of practice and qualifying over the weekend. Kiffin Simpson will roll off 15th. Evelyn DiFrancesco, after a year off, a solid 14th place qualifying run. In his debut with Dale Coyne, Renus VK was 12th, Nolan Siegel 11th. A good start to a hopefully rebound year for Marcus Ericsson. He'll start 7th. Christian Lundgaard with a new team. He rolls off in the 5th position, and we've already touched upon Myers-Shank and their success wrapping up, locking down, we should say, row number 2. So plenty of good stories among the top 15.
Yeah, really are. And, you know, Devlin and Kiffin that you talked about, outstanding. With both of them, you know, with Devlin being out a full year, and then Simpson, you know, being a sophomore year right now, didn't really have a lot of success last year. I see some speed in both of those drivers. I think they're doing a really good job. Matter of fact, when you line up right behind Will Power, pretty darn impressive, because that's our all-time pole winner, and he starts off in that 13th spot. But, you know, got to give it out to Dale Coyne and Renus VK. I mean, the first ride for them, that announcement didn't come but just a few weeks ago that he was even going to be in that cockpit. And to be able to come here, that late notice, I tell you, it's pretty impressive that they're starting off in that 12th spot. Now, we'll see how the race goes. Hopefully have great strategy, great pit stops. And, you know, Dale Coyne is pretty crafty at strategy, so we'll see if he can put a little magic in that. We know Renus can drive and have a good result.
Let's check in with Michael Young.
Yeah, during that halfway point in this morning warm-up. Interesting just watching what these teams have done. Everybody out there right now, but lap after lap, they would come in. Several of the teams would go to the alternate. I saw Alex Palou go alternate to sticker primary tires. They came back in and put on a used set of primaries. Colton Herta has been on a set of used alternate tires. So several of these guys have actually out there on primary tires. So Davey, I don't know, but it looks like some of them already know the answer to the big conundrum is how good are these alternates going to be. I think some of these teams are going to test and see how far they can go, but others don't think they're going to last very long at all and are really trying to figure out how these primaries are going to last throughout a stint.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good question too, as you said, Michael, is how long are the primaries going to last? That's a good question, because they say that they're softer. They seem to be. They seem to wear out and fall off a little bit more than normal as well. But you know, majority of the cars right now, I'm looking on the screen, and they do have that alternate tire on, just trying to get the most out of them. And you can see the times. They still get some good times out of them. It's just, are they going to maybe get to a point so you get to lap 5 or 6 and it kind of just stays steady for a while? That's their hope, not that it continues to fall off. So there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of debrief really concerning on when to put those greens on for the race.
15 minutes remaining in this session. Joseph Newgarden P1 at a time of 61.195. Dixon, Rosenquist, Palou, and Hurt in the top 5. Malukas, Kirkwood, Power, Ferrucci, and Rossi the top 10. Robb 11th, O'Ward 12th, Siegel 13th, Foster 14th, then McLaughlin, then VK, Rasmussen, Daly, Ray Hall, and Lundgaard. Schwartzman, Armstrong, Simpson, Eilert, DiFrancesco, Ericsson, and Abel. Let's go back to pit lane. Check in with Alex Wolf.
We have a chance to catch up with John Stewart. He represents Ask ROI, that's sponsoring Arenas VK's car this weekend with Dale Coyne Racing. And first off, I guess that we've seen Ask ROI on the cars the last couple of years with Ed Carpenter Racing. But first things first, what is Ask ROI?
Well, Ask ROI is a AI platform specifically designed for business leaders and owners. And the CEO of Ask ROI, Todd Alt, loves INDYCAR racing. He, as you know, he sponsored Ed Carpenter Racing the past 3 years. And Dale Coyne just seems like a perfect place for us to come. Dale is a small business owner, not only on the race team side, but has a number of business interests in Sonny's Barbecue and different things. So we're partnering with Dale. We're excited to have Renus. We have worked with Renus the past 3 years, and so it's exciting to sponsor Renus and get behind him, but to really be part of Dale Coyne Racing in this small business and try to use AI and our platform to help them not only on the track, but also off the track. So we're excited to be here.
And have you been able to find, with your involvement with the teams here in the IndyCar Series and now with Dale Coyne Racing, that racing is a place, because after all, racing not only is a hobby, a sport, but also a business, but have been able to find ways to sort of get more information and get more involvement in this sport?
Absolutely. That's why Todd Alt loves coming here. I mean, we do business deals. There's a lot of people in the paddock. One of the Todd's companies is a crane company. And Lanigan here, who's part of Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan, sells cranes. And so they're doing business now. One of their sponsors, Fleet Cost Care, they are actually doing business on the crane company too. So we love doing business with other sponsors. We love the fact that there are business leaders here. Jim Meyer from Meyer Shank has become a real good friend to Todd on a business side, because Jim was the CEO of SiriusXM. So the unique thing about IndyCar racing, when you're a sponsor, getting to be able to be in this platform. I mean, Todd, being a business owner in Las Vegas, Nevada, having an opportunity to deal with the Penske's in the world or the Ganassis in the world, this is an incredible place for new companies to come in, invest, and get to know everybody else in the paddock. And the fan base has been fantastic too. We'll still activate. We want all the fans. Anybody who wants to play around with AI, they can go to AskROI.com right now and sign up for free without a credit card and try the platform out. So it's a fantastic platform. We don't have the Davey Hamilton AI assistant built yet, but if we just record today's broadcast, I think we'll be able to pull Davey as an AI assistant to get Davey's things, his take on things.
We certainly look forward to that and being able to use that aspect of the platform. And we're certainly exciting times with things going on with AI, exciting times with the IndyCar Series for 2025. And John, we really appreciate not only you spending some time with us, but just the involvement of Ask ROI with the NTT IndyCar Series.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys.
I think we need to get Quincy to weigh in on the fact as to whether or not that AI Davey Hamilton would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think she may vote against that, actually. Yeah.
Well, that's a great story. It's nice that, they see the benefit. We talked about it a little bit over the course of the weekend. Sometimes when these when these driver changes occur, sometimes the sponsors go away, but clearly this is a program that not only believes in the driver, but believes in the series as a whole, Davey. And as we said, the difference in the sponsorships of this particular series may differ from some, because this is more of a business-to-business arrangement.
It really is, and I think that's something that this series has worked really hard on for a long, long time, but especially in these last 3 or 4 years, just really get everybody tied together. Obviously, budgets aren't going down, they're going up, so it takes more partners to make it really happen and make it successful. And look, we have 27 cars on the grid, Mark. I mean, we have great venues. I have to say the Fox package has been absolutely fantastic. I actually turned the TV on this morning, and they're here live. I mean, doing Fox and Friends this morning, doing live coverage, talking about what IndyCars and IndyCar is all about, and back to, getting us a lot of exposure. But B2B, as we know for a long time, Mark, and if you can do that in this series and within other sponsors, that's key.
Newgarden continues P1, then Dixon, Rosenquist, Malukas, and Palou the top 5. Herta, Kirkwood, Power, Ferrucci, and Rossi the top 10. Robb, Award, Siegel, Foster, and McLaughlin through 15th. Erickson, VK, Rasmussen, Daly, Rahal through 20th. Lundgaard, Schwartzman, Armstrong, Simpson, Eilert, Abel, and DeFrancesco through 27th. I don't want to jinx it, Davey, but let's face it, all in all, it's been a relatively trouble-free weekend, and I think that only makes sense given how familiar these drivers and teams are with the nuances of this course. However, we've seen it develop over the past couple of years. Going 4 or 5 wide into turn number 1 used to result in all kinds of chaos at the start of this race. I think over a period of time they realized that simply was not a good idea, but now all of a sudden turn 3 has turned into a troublesome spot because it narrows, that right-hander does in a hurry. But as Scott McLaughlin found out the hard way, there's some bumps there to the high side, and that's where marbles are as well, and Marcus Armstrong spun through there as well.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where we have confidence there. You remember they repaved that because it was so bumpy at one point. They repaved it, made it a little bit, made it better, made it smoother, but you get out of line, there's that bump there that just wants to send you just so slightly out of the line, but what happens then? You get to those marbles, just no grip out there, but it's so impressive on how fast they get through that corner. That's one of the corners I love. You go to all these tracks, there's certain corners you want to go watch an IndyCar go through. Turns 2 and 3 here is pretty darn impressive because you get it right, you go through there flat out, and it's not easy, but these cars, it just shows how much grip these cars have.
one of the very fast portions of this race course is very, very tricky. It can be a little on the dangerous side, and you know what the reward is if you can stay fast through here. I really think these cars look awfully fast through that switchback of 11 and 12.
Yeah, well, wait, that's another one. That's another place. It just, I mean, you watch the speeds go through there, 160 plus miles an hour through that switchback that you're talking about. It blows you away that a car can turn right and left that quickly at that speed, but they do it lap after lap after lap. And by the way, these drivers, they have to do it for 100 laps. I mean, it's not easy. There's a lot of G-force, brake force. I mean, just the steering, so much downforce in these cars, they're hard to turn nowadays. And boy, these drivers are truly athletes, and it's key. You can't be tired in a race. You're going to lose a lot of speed. And these drivers, they have to do a lot of work to make sure that does not happen.
A couple of places on this racetrack where you might be able to pull off some drafting, I would say maybe between 9 and 10 if everything kind of sorts out right for you, but certainly when you come off of 14 and set up for turn number 1.
Yeah, you talk about that a lot, Mark, is the momentum off of turn 14 going on that long straightaway, that airport runway. That is the key. If you come off 14 and you don't have a good run, the car behind you, whoever gets on the throttle quickest is going to have an advantage by the time you get down to turn 1. Obviously, the best place to pass. So it's obviously, you have to work on that corner hard, and you're right, turn 9 to 10, there is some drafting there, but the biggest advantage you can take there is they don't call it a corner, but that 9A that we call it, that kink, it's not easy to get to there wide open sometimes either. And if you're out of line and you have to lift, it could leave you as a sit duck if somebody's right behind you.
Scott McLaughlin goes into turn number 10, a little too overzealous, goes into the runoff area, and he's trying to get it backed up and get it back underway. And that happens with 7.5 minutes remaining in the session. A couple of updates in pit road, starting with Michael Young.
I've been talking to some crew members, Mark, about the stint and how long they think these alternate tires will last. I said 10. They said hopefully, but maybe more than that. The interesting part about all of this is Firestone was tasked to bring 2 different tires and big disparities between those tires. They didn't want these greens to last very long. They wanted the primaries to last longer, so the fall-off would be greater, make better strategies for these teams. So it's interesting, and we'll see how it plays out. That it looks like task completed for Firestone, and we are certainly going to see how this plays out as far as strategies go for these alternate tires as we move down pit lane to Alex Wolf.
And one of the things we'll be checking out as the season progresses is the Rookie of the Year class, and one of those, the 2024 Indy Next by Firestone champion Louis Foster, running the 45 car for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing, and of course his first time in open wheel action, taking live pit stops. And so really for Louis Foster, a little bit of trouble when he came in for a live pit stop a few moments ago, slightly overshot the pit box, the signboard. The tire changers had to readjust a little bit. They put the fans on, cooled things off, and sent the 45 car back out onto the track.
Thanks, guys. And, Michael referenced the tires. Earlier this weekend, we caught up with Kara Kristalik of Firestone, and want to share that with you now in case you missed it. This really goes in depth as the decision-making process and how the tire distribution and all of that, they hope and think it will impact the racing all throughout the course of the weekend.
Kara Kristalik, the executive engineer of race tire engineering here at Firestone, and it's a big off season for Firestone and lots of changes that we found out about as we come into St. Petersburg. But I think one of the biggest, and it's one of those situations when INDYCAR, I don't know if it was Firestone, made the call, even amounts of reds and blacks this year. Explain how that decision was made.
Sure. Indy came up to us at the end of that last year and said, could we shift the alternate tire program? We want to have a really big impact on racing and the difference between primary and alternate tires, and we wanted to cause strategy differences to cause differences in racing. Not only did we shift to 5 and 5 sets, but they also wanted a much larger gap between primary and alternate tires. So for a place like St. Pete and all of our other street courses, we went with a very soft alternate. So the tires are going to be really quick for the first couple of laps, and then they're going to start dropping off right away. So for qualifying, they're going to be quick. They're going to have to make sure they get the right gap and qualify on the right lap. And then when you go to the race, they're going to have to take care of the tires. If you take care of the tires, they'll take care of you, but it's going to be a challenge.
How many different compounds will we see throughout 2025?
So for the street courses, we're only going to see the single primary and alternate, but then we'll see up to about 22 different compounds between INDYCAR and Indy Next. And you'll see a lot of difference at road courses. And then when you get to oval, wheels, left sides and right sides are different. So we've got a lot in stores this year.
The INDYCAR series also tasked Firestone with bringing a bigger disparity between the alternates and then the primary tires. How difficult is that to balance from what we have done in years past? Because basically you throw the old numbers kind of out the window.
So we've had primary and alternate tires in the past. And the good thing here is this alternate tire is very similar to what we ran in 2023. I'm about 2 decades off. So we have a nice gap between those, and we've studied this gap before. The big variable, however, is the extra weight of the hybrid. So that's a little bit difference in performance, a little bit of difference on how those tires go off. So we use our engineering judgment from what we learned with the hybrid later in the season and applied it to what we know about St. Pete and what we know about that tire gap.
How much tinkering does Firestone do within the season and changing of these compounds once you see the tire perform in a race?
So we are always evolving our tire designs. Usually street course tires, we built them at the beginning of the year. They are set for the remainder of the year. We will be learning from this event for some of our other tires that we have not yet built.
For the fans who are listening to us around the world, each year, obviously, you come to Florida, there's not a lot of changes here, but you go up north into some of the tracks, so be a lot of changes. How often do you check the track surface out and make actual changes to the tire due to track changes?
Yeah, we always have to stay on our toes. We have things like repaves that happen or partial repaves. We look at Iowa last year and Mid-Ohio. We are constantly going out to tracks, getting friction measurements, and then understanding where that fits in our lineup of tire compounds to be able to support the race series the best.
We always appreciate your time, not only that, and the great tires that you guys bring each and every weekend here to the NTT IndyCar Series. Thank you for your time, as always.
All right, thank you, Michael.
It's Kara Kristalik, Executive Race Director and Tire Engineering at Firestone here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
Good stuff from earlier this weekend at Davie. Another element added to the mix in terms of this tire wear is the fact that Long Beach, Mid-Ohio, Iowa, Toronto, and Nashville Superspeedway, all of those races have had laps added to them in varying degrees. 5 at Long Beach, 10 at Mid-Ohio, Iowa plus 25, plus 5 at Toronto, and plus 19 at Nashville. And by the way, at Nashville, they will again offer an alternate tire in the season finale.
Yeah, you know, and that I think it's key to add some length to some of these races because it puts a strategy back into it. It just doesn't make it a boring race where there's just a two-stopper. It's very easy. There's a huge window to be able to make that. And now the strategists and these team engineers are going to have to do a little extra work, and these crew guys are going to have to make an extra pit stop at majority of those races that they add, that they add laps, which adds a stop. So I think it's great. I think it's really good. It just, keeps more competition in it and more, just keeps it up in the air.
Speaking of debuts this season, first race of the season for Indy next by Firestone. And let's get a preview of that. Comes your way at the top of the hour with Nick Yeoman. Hello, Nick.
Yeah, hello, Mark. Quite a few surprises yesterday in qualifying. Of course, a lot of veterans in Indy next by Firestone, but it's a couple newcomers who are going to start on the front row, both driving for Andretti Global. The Norwegian rookie Dennis Hauger went out and laid down multiple track record-setting laps. He grabbed the pole, and he has Lockie Hughes to his outside when we drop the green flag. Lockie's the USF Pro 2000 scholarship winner, so both of those drivers lightning quick. Looking forward to it. 45 laps around the streets of St. Pete. Going to have Yuban Sundaramurthy, who's competed many times in the last couple years in Indy next by Firestone, in the booth with us. Looking forward to it, Mark, as we kick off the season here in St. Pete.
Yeah, happy to have him with us. Hope we have him back in a race car very, very soon. With the time winding down here in this trouble-free session, Joseph Newgarden continues P1, but a good session for veterans. Newgarden, Dixon, Palou, Rosenquist, the top 4. Then Malukas, Erickson, Rahal, Rasmussen, Award, and Herta. Kirkwood, Foster, Power, VK, and Ferrucci, the top 15. Lundgaard, Rossi, Robb, Siegel, Eilert through 20th. Then McLaughlin, Daly, Jacob Abel, Kiffin Simpson, Armstrong, DeFrancesco, and Schwartzman. By the way, Joseph's fastest lap at 101.195. Okay, Michael Young, your prediction as to who's going to get to victory lane here on the streets of St. Petersburg today.
And I'm looking at the timing and scoring chart, and it's going to be a tough pick. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, but I'm going to go with who I predicted to win last night, and that's Colton Herta, the 2021 winner. I just think coming off the season victory in Nashville last year, starting the season strong on the outside of row number 1, we'll get a good idea of what he thought about these alternate tires here before everything's said and done. He finished P10 here in this session, so Colton Herta will be my pick.
Alex Wolf.
I've been going back and forth on who to pick as this weekend has progressed, and the longer that I've been down here in St. Pete checking things out, the more I'm impressed by a guy that I think is maybe poised to go to the next level this season, especially with that new affiliation we talked about. I'm going to go Felix Rosenquist today.
Davey Hamilton.
Man, I think this is going to be a little bit of a strategy race. I think there's going to be some things happening in the pit lane. I think it's going to be cars that are good in long runs, and I'm going to go with Mike Cole and Scott Dixon. I think that's two to work together good on questionable race strategies.
You guys, I think about all of you have taken the drivers that you left me the obvious. I think I'm going to go with the pole sitter. I think it's going to be one of those weekends where the pole sitter also wins the race like Colton Herta did a couple of years ago. He's buoyed by the fact that he's a new dad. Little one was here with him this weekend, was able to celebrate his 11th career pole. So I'm going to go with Scott McLaughlin. I think all of them are very good picks, but it also could be a first-time winner and something, Davey, totally unexpected could happen because of the tire strategy.
That's right, because it is very difficult to pass here. We know that, and we see when they're all on the primary tire, the times are so darn close, so on top of each other. And you're right. I mean, somebody just hits that strategy right, gets off those greens. You can cycle somebody that's way back. You got to look at some of these drivers that didn't qualify very good, like Pato O'Ward. Can he file his way to the front? Because he won it last year. He could do it again this year.
Again, Scott McLaughlin, Colton Herta will be on the front row when they take the green flag about 12:29 this afternoon. The fastest in this session, Newgarden, Dixon, Palou, Rosenquist, and David Maluka. Stay with us, top of the hour. Indy next race number 1, and then we'll rejoin you at 11:30 Eastern time. Pre-race festivities with a green flag again at 12:29. This is Mark James saying so long for now from the streets of St. Petersburg.
Thanks to Indy Radio for their coverage for the warm-up session, and Joseph Newgarden in front with Scott Dixon and Alex Palou completing at the top 3. Make sure to join us for the main race around 5 p.m. GMT. See you then.